The day our divorce became official, I walked into the house we had built together and found every room empty. My ex-husband had sold the furniture, packed everything else, and left one handwritten note on the kitchen floor that changed everything I thought I knew. My name is Olivia Parker. I am 35 years old, and until 2 years ago I believed I had the kind of marriage people envied. I lived in Denver, Colorado, where I worked as a registered nurse at a local hospital. My ex-husband, Ethan, owned a small home renovation business that had grown steadily over the years. We had been married for 11 years and shared a beautiful house that we spent years saving to buy. We never had children because we kept telling ourselves there would always be more time. Ethan had always been charming. He knew exactly what to say to make people trust him. Friends called him generous. Neighbors admired how helpful he seemed. Even my parents often reminded me how lucky I was to have married someone so dependable. For years, I believed them. Things began changing after Ethan's business started struggling. He became distant, short-tempered, and unusually secretive about money. Bills started arriving later than usual. Credit card statements disappeared before I could see them. Whenever I asked simple questions, he smiled and said, "I have everything under control. Stop worrying." I wanted to believe him because trusting my husband felt easier than imagining he was hiding something. Then small arguments became weekly fights. He blamed my long hospital shifts for every problem in our marriage. "You care more about strangers than your own husband," he said one evening. I looked at him in disbelief. "I worked those shifts because we both agreed we needed the income." Instead of answering, he walked out of the room. A few months later he suggested divorce with a calm expression that frightened me more than shouting ever could. "I think we both deserve a fresh start," he said. I stared at the man I had loved for more than a decade, completely unaware that the divorce was only the beginning of the betrayal waiting for me. The divorce process lasted almost 8 months. During that time Ethan acted surprisingly cooperative. He never argued about the paperwork, never challenged my requests, and always arrived at court with the same calm smile. Even my attorney commented on it. "I have to admit," she said one afternoon, "compared to most divorce cases, your husband seems unusually reasonable." I nodded, but something about his behavior never felt genuine. Every time we left the courthouse, he looked at me with an expression I could not understand. It was almost as if he knew something I did not. When the judge signed the final divorce papers, Ethan simply stood up. "I hope you find the happiness you are looking for, Olivia." Those were the last words he said before walking away. I expected to feel relief. Instead, I felt empty. The following morning I drove to our house to collect the rest of my belongings. According to our agreement, the property would be sold in a few weeks, giving both of us enough time to remove our personal items. As I pulled into the driveway, something immediately felt wrong. The curtains were gone. The flower pots had disappeared. Even the porch swing Ethan had built years earlier was missing. I unlocked the front door. The house echoed with silence. The living room was completely empty. The sofa, television, coffee table, and bookshelves were gone. The dining room contained nothing except dust marks where the furniture had once stood. My heart began racing. I hurried upstairs. The bedroom was stripped bare. Even the mattress had disappeared. I stood frozen in the middle of the empty room, unable to understand what I was seeing. Then I noticed a single folded piece of paper lying on the kitchen floor. It had my name written across the front. My hands trembled as I opened it. "I sold everything that belonged to me. I figured you would not mind." I read the sentence again. Then again. The note continued. By the time you read this, every payment has already cleared. I immediately called Ethan. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. Panic replaced confusion. I contacted my attorney. She sounded shocked. "Do not touch anything," she said. "I will meet you there." An hour later she walked through the empty house, taking photographs of every room. "This makes no sense," she whispered. Then she stopped beside the fireplace. "There should have been antiques listed in your property inventory." There were. She looked directly at me. "They are gone." As we continued checking the house, I slowly realized this was not just an angry ex-husband selling furniture. Something much bigger had happened. And whatever Ethan had been hiding during our entire marriage had finally caught up with us. My attorney immediately began making calls while I searched through every cabinet and closet, hoping I had missed something. There was nothing left. Even the framed family photographs had disappeared. "This was planned," my attorney said quietly. "Nobody empties an entire house overnight without preparing for it." Her words sent a chill through me. Later that afternoon we learned Ethan had already closed the business bank accounts and transferred ownership of several company vehicles just days before the divorce became final. Everything had been carefully timed. I felt sick. Had he been planning this from the moment he asked for a divorce? The following morning I visited the storage facility where Ethan had rented a unit for years. The manager recognized me immediately. "I'm sorry," he said. "Your ex-husband emptied the unit 3 days ago." "Did he say where he was going?" He shook his head. "He just said he was starting over." I drove home feeling completely defeated. Then my phone rang. It was Ethan's younger sister, Megan. "I think we need to talk," she said. An hour later we met at a quiet coffee shop. She looked nervous. "I did not know how bad things were until yesterday." "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath. "Ethan has been drowning in debt for almost 2 years." I stared at her. "He told everyone the business was doing great. He lied to all of us." She explained that Ethan had taken out personal loans, borrowed money from relatives, and even used company funds to cover gambling losses. My heart sank. All those late nights. All those missing bank statements. All those strange excuses. They suddenly made sense. "He thought one big investment would fix everything," Megan said softly. "Instead, he lost even more." I could barely speak. "So he sold everything because he needed the money?" She nodded. "But there is something else you should know." She reached into her purse and handed me a folder. "I found these while helping clean his office." Inside were copies of loan agreements, unpaid tax notices, and several documents with my forged signature. I felt the blood drain from my face. "He used my name. I am so sorry." Tears filled Megan's eyes. "I never imagined he would do this." I immediately took the folder to my attorney. She carefully reviewed every page before looking up. "Olivia, this changes everything. What happens now? If these signatures are forged, this is no longer just a divorce matter." She paused for a moment. "This could become a criminal investigation." For the first time since my marriage had fallen apart, I stopped feeling powerless. Ethan had spent years making decisions for both of us. He believed he could disappear after destroying our future. He believed I would quietly accept whatever he left behind. As I walked out of my attorney's office that evening, I made one promise to myself. I was done cleaning up the messes he created. This time, he would finally have to face the consequences of his own choices. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Within weeks the police confirmed that the signatures on the loan documents were not mine. Several banks removed my name from the fraudulent accounts, and my attorney began recovering my share of the property Ethan had secretly sold. A few months later my phone rang. It was Ethan. His voice sounded tired. "Olivia, I know I do not deserve it, but can we talk? There is nothing left to say. I never meant for things to end like this." I took a deep breath. "You spent years lying to me. You forged my name and tried to leave me with your debts. Those were choices, not accidents." He stayed silent. Finally he whispered, "I am sorry." I replied calmly, "I hope one day you become the man I thought I married." Then I ended the call. Months later the court ordered Ethan to pay restitution for the financial damage he caused. I sold the house and bought a smaller place near the hospital where I work. It was not my dream home, but every room brought me peace instead of anxiety. For a long time I believed the day I found our empty house was the worst day of my life. Now I understand it differently. Ethan sold every piece of furniture he could carry. He sold our memories. He sold the future we had planned together. But he could never sell my integrity, my strength, or my chance to begin again. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what truly belongs to you. The day my marriage ended, I thought my story was over. Looking back now, it was the first chapter of a life that was finally, completely my own.